name is Credit Coach Nicole Scott. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you how I was able to get a $25,000 credit card with Navy Federal and also get auto loans with Navy Federal as well. Now, keep in mind, these hacks, you must watch the entire video because I'm telling you, this is the same information that literally people charge for. So stay tuned. Let's go. Let's get straight to it. Here's a quick success story before we get started. This is a client that I recently helped obtain an $80,000 auto loan. How? Simply by adding trade lines. If you add higher limit credit trade lines to your credit report, it is going to help you not only improve your credit score, but also improve the credit limits that are on your credit report, which help you obtain higher limit credit in your name. Now, we call this piggybacking. You may have heard this term, but you may have not. And trade lines are a great way to help boost your credit in a fast manner and to be able to get you approved for higher limits. Now, you can clearly see that this client said that Navy Federal didn't give them much of a credit card, but they did give him an $80,000 auto loan. Now, he can't use this auto loan check until his house closes. So he was able to do a few things with these trade lines. He was able to get his credit score up high enough for him to apply for his home loan, which he is in closing now. He was able to get credit with Navy Federal, including an $80,000 auto loan that he will be able to use after his home closes. The check is good until December, so by that time he will have already closed on his new home. And this is just one of many success stories when it comes to adding trade lines to your credit report. So if you need trade lines, visit the link below. But we're going to get on to the Navy Federal credit hacks. All right, I'm not going to waste any of your time today, folks. So the number one way that you can get high limit credit cards and high limit auto loans with Navy Federal is by getting trade lines, adding trade lines to your credit profile, and then being able to leverage those trade lines to get higher limits with credit cards or auto loans. Now, keep in mind, there are a lot of different steps that you need in order to build relationships with credit unions, but I'm going to keep it simple. I want you guys to take this concept and you can apply it to any credit union or bank of your choice. Now, I always recommend building relationships with credit unions or local community banks because those are the banks that literally want, need, and have the resources to help people with less than perfect credit, okay? A lot of your bigger banks like Chase, Bank of America, the banks that you see on your everyday corner driving down the street, those banks are going to be a little bit more strict when it comes to your actual credit score. So that's why we want to find banks like PenFed, Navy Fed, First Tech. There's a ton of different federal credit unions and community banks out there that I have listed in my credit building guide. So if you need a copy of that, I have the link below where you can actually get a copy of that. And it has over 20 different credit unions that you can build a relationship with. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to open up a checking and a savings account with the bank. Now, if you are unable to open up a checking account for some reason, it's either going to be because you have issues or some sort of derogatory information on your report with check systems or early warning, okay? Those are the two bureaus or data reporting companies that work with the banks. So if you have old overdraft fees or just old negative information, we need to get a copy of your check systems report and your early warning report to make sure that you are able to get the accounts. And sometimes that just means clearing up some old debt, disputing it, whatever we need to do to get that cleared up. I've literally helped people get their check systems and early warning reports cleaned up, and all that really was holding them back were old fees. So we really got to get all of that worked out so you can open up bank accounts with reputable banks. Now, a lot of the time, the reason why people open a bank account with places like Chime is because they simply can't get a bank with a credit union because of their banking history. So we really want to make sure we get those reports and we get you in the banks that you deserve. Chime is only a temporary solution, okay? It's great for people that simply can't get a bank account, but you have to ask yourself, why am I not able to get a bank account and how can I fix that, okay? There's always a way to fix things. It might take some time, but eventually we will get there and cross the finish line, okay? So what we're going to do is open up those bank accounts when we can, and you want to open up the bank account with the largest amount of money that you possibly can, okay? And keep in mind, you can open up multiple bank accounts. I recommend opening 3 bank accounts every 3 months. You don't want to go too crazy at once, but you want to do your research, find about 3 banks that you want to open up, and do that process every 3 to 6 months so you're constantly opening up new relationships, because those relationships can eventually turn into credit cards, auto loans, home loans, personal loans, home improvement loans, whatever you need that they offer. A lot of these loans are going to be no document required. So a lot of times you won't have to submit pay stubs or anything of that nature because you already have a relationship. So instead of going to the auto dealer, you can go directly to these banks and get a check from them to go buy the car of your choice. And a lot of times when you get funding from a bank directly, the interest rate will be much lower if you have challenged credit. Okay, so that's the goal here, is building the relationship with the banks. And keep in mind, a lot of credit unions have what's called a secured loan. And the secured loan is something that I highly recommend. So when we first open up our bank account, sometimes we would have to need to, wait a certain time to do any sort of application with the bank. A lot of times Navy Federal, they'll allow people to get a secured loan with them anywhere from 30 to 90 days after they have established their banking relationship with them, which is just opening up a checking and a savings account. Okay, now if you have any direct deposit, if you're working with a bank that you're looking to get funding from, you want to move your direct deposit over to that bank so they can see that you are having consistent deposits being made in your account. Because what happens is, with the initial amount that you open up your bank account with and the activity, you're going to generate what's called a banking score. And with Navy Federal, they have an internal scoring model. So for you to get the highest chance of getting high limit credit cards, auto loans, home loans, all of these different credit products that they offer, you want to make sure that your internal score with Navy Federal or any of these other banks, again, we're taking the concept and applying it as a whole, right? So the concept is building the relationship, okay? Setting up direct deposit, having a savings account, opening up a CD or some sort of money market account with them, okay? That's exactly what I did. Once I opened up my bank account with them, I opened a checking and a savings, and then I also opened up a CD for $1,000. And then we want to go ahead and we want to do what's called a pledge loan with Navy Federal. And you might hear me talk about pledge loans often. I'm a huge fan of them. I've done 2 pledge loans in my past. One was for $3,500. I was able to get my $25,000 credit card with that. I was able to refinance my auto loan. And then I did a $25,000 pledge loan, and after that I was able to get more credit cards with higher limits. So it was just a win-win. You want to take your cash, you want to put it on your credit report, right? A lot of people are like, well, I can't get credit because I get declined for it. Well, that's why you want to start developing relationships with banks, because you can do secured loans. You can also do secured credit cards with them. I've gotten people secured credit cards with Navy Federal that had, a 580 credit score, which is not a great credit score, but A secured credit card is a great way for you to start establishing your credit, and it will graduate to an unsecured card after, so many months. Usually with Navy Federal, it's anywhere from 6 to 12 months. But it does graduate. And that's the one thing that I really like, is because, say you put, $5,000 down or $1,000 down for your secured card. Now you're already setting that precedence. So if you graduate, they're going to give you your money back and you get a higher limit. So that's exactly what we want. Is if you do have challenged credit, you can start off with a secured loan first. That's what I recommend first versus the credit card, because you want to show your payment history. You want to show that you're able to pay your bills on time. That's the number one thing. And you can set all of this up over the phone as far as the secured loan. If you wish to apply for any of the credit cards, you can do that right on their website. So I've never been to a Navy Federal branch to actually apply. Only time I've really had to go there is to pick up a check. So you don't necessarily have to have one locally. You can transfer and do pretty much everything online. So again, you can call a banker. You can set up your secured loan, which is called the pledge loan. You just want to make sure the money's in your savings account, and then they will take a loan against that, put that same money of yours in your checking account, and then you will be responsible for paying back the loan that you have taken out, the secured loan. And it will report to all 3 credit bureaus as a installment loan, okay, which is great. And there is no hard inquiry when you go and you apply for the pledge loan. So that's great, because a lot of times when you go and get a credit card, it is going to be some sort of hard inquiry, right? But with the pledge loan, there is no hard inquiry. It's just you developing your relationship. And again, you can definitely do that by obtaining the pledge loan. You can do 3 months, 6 months term. You can even do a 12-month term. But you want to make sure you're just establishing your ability to make those payments on time every single month. And of course, the larger amount that you can do, the better. Even if you have to borrow the funds from somebody, I know sometimes that can be a little tricky, but the biggest amount that you could possibly do, the better. Because as soon as you pay it off, the money is back in your account anyway. So you're still going to have access to the funds. So I highly recommend putting your cash on your credit report, especially if you can do larger limits, because if the largest limit that you have listed on your credit report is only $500 or $1,000, what would make someone be able to trust you with a $25,000 credit card? You have to kind of think about that. So our goal is to start establishing those larger limits of credit that are listed on our credit profile, and also start developing the relationships with the banks and financial institutions, so that way they will give us those larger amounts, right? And sometimes we do have to buy trade lines or have trade lines reported to our credit to help us to enhance our credit profile and enhance our credit score, because sometimes we need those larger limits, right? It's sometimes a little difficult from going to $1,000 credit limit to, the high $20,000 credit limits. So you want to just be able to get those trade lines and kind of build your way up. And sometimes it takes some building. Sometimes you might only get $5,000 or $10,000. But if you do the hacks that I'm giving you in this video, you are going to be more likely to get a higher limit credit card or a higher limit auto loan with Navy Federal. Now, sometimes I have had clients that have gotten declined for credit cards, but guess what? They went back and they applied for the auto loan, and boom, they were approved for an $80,000 auto loan with Navy Federal. And later in this video, I will actually show you the check from one of my clients. He was able to obtain an $80,000 auto loan with Navy Federal. And whenever you get auto loans directly with the credit union, you know you're going to have a much better term because your interest rate is going to be a lot lower. If you don't know what your interest rate is on your auto loan, I highly recommend you find out so you can try to even refinance your auto loan with a credit union like Navy Federal. I was able to refinance one of my auto loans a few years back, and it saved me over $200 a month on just interest. I was literally flushing that money down the toilet. So this is a great way for you to save money and also just learn to leverage credit, okay? So we've got the bank account open, we've got the pledge loan going, the secured loan. I pay that off in about 3 to 6 months. Just let it marinate, take your time, credit, there's nothing fast about it, okay? You want to also invest in some trade lines, okay? You want to make sure that you don't have any derogatories on your account. Invest in some higher limit trade lines, and then we will be ready to apply for the credit cards and the auto loans with the credit unions like Navy Federal. And mind you, you can do a funding sequence where you're applying for multiple things at the same time, and that's what a lot of clients of mine do after they get trade lines. They start applying for a ton of different credit products, and we can remove all the inquiries that you don't get approved for. So it's really no big deal. But you want to do it strategically. You want to know where each of these places run credit from. PenFed, they're going to be Equifax. Navy Federal is going to be TransUnion. Places like Bank of America and American Express, they're going to be using Experian. And if you don't have my credit building guide, go to the link below in the description and grab a copy of that, because that's going to have our secret lenders list. And you can also use other resources online to find out, what people were approved for in your area, because sometimes pulling credit does vary by area. I'm in California, so I'm giving you information based on where I live at. If you live in Nevada or Ohio, it might be a different story. Every state is a little bit different, or can be a little bit different. I've seen where Navy Federal pulled Equifax and TransUnion. I've seen where they pulled Experian for their home loans. So, it just depends on where you are located. You want to keep that in mind. And area does matter. So if you are located in a low income area, you would want to consider using another address. So I have a lot of clients that don't live in the best of areas, but they actually use a separate address. Family members, you can use virtual addresses, because those addresses are in a higher income location, and that does matter. You also never want to put that you're self-employed. Those are big no-nos. So again, guys, make sure that you watch my entire video, because I give gems through the entire thing. And if you haven't by now, make sure that you have subscribed to the channel. My name is Credit Coach Nicole Scott. You can follow me on Instagram and YouTube, and you can make sure that you get your $25,000 credit card with Navy Federal. It just takes time. It takes you taking action and following the steps that are in my videos. So until next time, watch this playlist coming up next. So again, guys, my name is Credit Coach Nicole Scott. Make sure that you have subscribed to the channel and you give me a thumbs up for this video. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you found most valuable about the video.